It was late afternoon. The light outside was soft. It painted the room in quiet hues. A feeling of deep peace filled the air. You were comfortable, very comfortable. The soft blanket covered your body. It felt warm against your skin. The pillow cradled your head. It was just the right softness. You were resting, simply resting, breathing in and out. Your breath was calm and steady. It made a soft sound, a very quiet, soft sound. This sound was very peaceful. Your muscles were relaxed. Your mind was quiet. The day's busyness was far away. You were in your own space, a safe space, a very still space. The sounds from outside were faint. They did not touch you here. You were wrapped in calm. Then a soft sound came from the window. It was a small tap, a very tiny tap, almost too small to hear. You might have thought it was the wind, or perhaps a small branch brushing against the glass. You did not move at first. You just listened to your breath. The tap came again. This time, it was a little clearer, a little more distinct. Still, you did not open your eyes. You let the sound pass, but it came back. And again, and again. Each tap grew a little stronger, a little more firm. It changed from a soft touch to a clear knock, a very definite knock. It was no longer gentle. It became more urgent. It was not a violent sound, but it held a certain push. A push that seemed to say, "Pay attention." The knocks grew slightly impatient now. There was a rhythm to them, a quick, sharp rhythm. It was a surprising sound. Surprising because it was so clear, and it was at your window. Who would be knocking like this, and why? A small frown touched your forehead. Your eyes opened slowly. You looked towards the sound. Your window, the glass was clear, but something was sitting there, something that did not belong. You blinked, then you blinked again. Yes, it was real. A bird, a large bird. It sat on the sill outside. Its feathers were bright white, so white they looked like fresh snow, or like carved ivory. This bird was not common. It was much too big for a regular bird, and its eyes, they were dark and sharp. They looked at you, stared at you, directly at you. They seemed to hold a deep understanding, a very ancient understanding. The bird was a raven, a white raven. It looked stern, not angry, but very serious. It had a purpose. You could see that in its steady gaze. In its beak, the white raven held something, something important. It was an envelope, made of parchment, old parchment. The color was soft yellow, like old paper that had seen many years. The edges of the envelope were a little rough. They hung down a bit at the sides. The parchment looked thick. It had a texture, a dry, crisp texture. The raven did not drop it. It held it tight. It kept knocking. A sharp rap, rap, rap with its beak against the glass. It wanted your attention, all of your attention. You watched the raven. It watched you back. Its head was tilted slightly, its dark eyes fixed. You did not react right away. You were too surprised. A white raven at your window, carrying a letter. It was like something from a dream. The raven clearly knew this. It seemed to sigh, a tiny, almost silent puff of air. Then it pounded again, harder this time, more insistent. The sound was clear in the quiet room. It urged you. It truly urged you. Finally, you decided to move. You pushed the blanket aside. It made a soft rustle. You sat up. Your feet touched the floor. The wood felt cool beneath them. You walked slowly to the window. Each step was careful. You reached out your hand. Your fingers touched the latch. The metal was cool. You turned the latch gently. The window opened with a soft creak. The fresh air rushed in. It was cool, and it smelled of earth and the coming evening. The raven did not fly away. It did not flinch. It was brave, and it was focused. As soon as the window was open wide enough, the raven let go of the parchment. It dropped it. Not onto the floor outside, but straight into your room. The letter did not just fall, it moved. It had a strange life of its own. It fluttered wildly, like a small bird. It spun in the air. It danced. It darted across the room. It seemed to have no weight at all. Briefly, it touched your nose, just a soft, light touch, like a feather. You felt the dry, smooth parchment against your skin. A strange, fleeting sensation. Then it floated upwards, higher and higher, before slowly descending, not on a table. It landed on your head, right on top. It rested there, light as air. A very unexpected place for a letter to land. You reached up a hand, slowly, carefully. Your fingers closed around the parchment. You brought it down. You held the parchment in your hands. It felt old. It felt important. You looked at it closely. It was sealed with wax. A very special seal. The wax was dark red, almost like old blood. On the wax was a crest, a symbol. The coat of arms on the seal showed a large castle. It looked very powerful. Its towers were tall. Its walls were thick. It stood on a hill, or perhaps a mountain. The castle looked strong. It looked ancient. Below the castle, words were written. Very small words, but clear, they said. School of Magic for Aspiring Wizards. A school of magic. The words shimmered faintly, just a tiny shimmer. You felt a wave of curiosity, a very strong wave. This was not normal. This was extraordinary. Your heart beat a little faster, not from fear, but from wonder, from a feeling of something new, something truly big. You looked at the seal again, the powerful castle, the words your presence desired. You had to open it. Carefully, you broke the seal. The wax snapped softly. A very quiet sound. The parchment rustled as you unfolded it. And then, something happened. Something truly magical. Immediately, two things sprang forth from the letter. Not just fell out, they sprang. One was a feather, a thin white feather, just like the raven's feathers. It was delicate. The other was a leaf, a vibrant green leaf. It looked fresh, as if it had just fallen from a living tree. The feather began to move. It did not fall to the floor. It floated, and then it started to scratch. It moved across the surface of the leaf, as if guided by an unseen hand. It wrote, in an ancient handwriting, a script that was old and elegant. The words appeared slowly, one by one, each letter forming with a tiny, almost inaudible scrape. You watched, mesmerized. The feather wrote that your presence as a student of magic was desired. It was a formal invitation, a clear call. The writing continued. It listed things. A list of needed utensils, it said, and some magic dust are enclosed so that you can get everything you need. Your eyes scanned the words. Utensils, magic dust. This was real. This was truly happening. The feather finished its writing. Then it became still. It floated gently. Then it dissolved. It simply vanished into thin air. The leaf, too, faded. It shimmered, and then it was gone. As you finished reading the last word, something else happened. Something instant. A sudden weight appeared in your hand, in the hand that had held the parchment. It was a bag, a golden bag. It felt well-filled. It felt heavy. The gold of the bag shimmered. It was not just a color. It seemed to glow faintly. And beside it, also in your hand, was a list, a piece of paper. It looked new, and on it were words, the words of needed supplies. You felt the weight of the golden bag. It was substantial. More than just coins, you could feel a special power coming from it. It was not heat. It was not cold. It was an energy, a gentle hum. A slight tingling sensation spread through your fingers. up your hand. It was a strange feeling, a pleasant feeling, like tiny sparks dancing just under your skin. This power was undeniable. It was clearly magical. Maybe you were a bit surprised. Of course you were. This was not an everyday event. A white raven, a magical letter, a golden bag, a tingling power. But deep inside you, a little voice spoke. A quiet voice, a very clear voice. It did not shout. It did not demand. It simply told you. It told you that you could get involved in this adventure. It felt right. A deep, true feeling. It was a pull, a very strong pull. You knew you could do this. You wanted to do this. The instructions in the letter echoed in your mind. Feel free to open the bag now. You looked at the golden bag. Its surface was smooth. The gold was rich. You pulled the drawstring. The bag opened. Inside, it was dark, but it shimmered with something, a soft inner light. You could see no bottom. It seemed endless. Think about your list of spell supplies. The voice in your mind continued. You looked at the list. It had many items, wands, cauldrons, herbs, things for magic. Imagine crumbling some dust between your fingers, the inner voice urged. You reached into the golden bag. Your fingers dipped into something soft, something fine. It felt like very fine sand, or perhaps powdered moonlight. You pinched a small amount between your thumb and forefinger. It was magic dust. It shimmered faintly. Tiny sparks danced within it. Think of the first words or symbols that come straight to mind. The voice completed. You closed your eyes for a moment. You thought of the market, the idea of a market, a secret market, a place where such items would be found. You focused on the image of an old street, cobblestones, stalls, many people. Your hands moved. You crumbled the dust. It felt like tiny motes of light falling through your fingers. It was warm. Then, a sudden, gentle swirl of energy surrounded you. It was not violent. It was soft, like a warm current of air. But it made your vision blurry for a moment. A slight disorientation, as if the very air around you was twisting. You felt your feet lift for a fraction of a second. The floor beneath you seemed to ripple. It was a sensation of shifting. Your comfortable room seemed to melt away. The sounds faded, the scents changed. Then, just as suddenly, the swirling stopped. Your feet were on solid ground again. Your eyes opened. Chapter 1. The Shifting Alleys of Viridian Vale. The feeling of shifting had gone. You stood on a new surface. It was no longer the smooth wood of your room. It was rough. It was made of stone, old stone. These were cobblestones. They were very old, worn smooth by many, many years, by countless footsteps. You could see the faint curves where feet had pressed them down. The stones were a mix of gray and brown. Some were dark, some were light, but they also had a special glow, a very faint glow. It pulsed softly, a soft, warm light from within the stones themselves. This light made the street feel alive, as if it remembered all the steps it had carried. You looked around. This was not a normal street. This was no ordinary city. The air felt different. It was denser. It hummed with a quiet energy. The light was strange. It was late afternoon, just as before. But here, the sunlight seemed to filter through something unseen. It had a golden tint, a very deep, warm gold. Old oil lanterns hung from the walls of the buildings. They were made of dark metal. Their glass was thick, but they did not burn oil. Instead, they hummed, a low, soft sound. This hum was gentle. It vibrated in the air. The light from these lanterns was also soft. It cast long, dancing shadows. These shadows moved on their own, as if they were alive. The buildings themselves were unusual. Some were made of time-worn stone, very old stone, like the cobblestones, dark gray, strong. Their windows were narrow, their roofs were steep. They looked like they had stood for many hundreds of years. But next to these old stone buildings were others, shimmering structures. They looked as if they were made of light or mist. They were ephemeral. This means they did not seem solid. They pulsed. They gently shifted. Their shapes seemed to breathe. Like slow, quiet breaths, you could almost see them expand and contract, just slightly. They glowed with soft, changing colors, blues, greens, golds. It was like they were made of dreams. Lining the avenue were trees, old chestnut trees, very old. Their trunks were thick and gnarled, full of twists and bumps. Their bark was dark, and their leaves were not green. They shimmered with golden light. Every single leaf, a pure, bright gold. They caught the light from the lanterns and the strange sunlight. They glowed and they moved gently. The golden leaves were sailing. They detached themselves from the branches. They floated softly to the ground. They did not just fall, they sailed, like tiny boats on an unseen current. And when they touched the cobblestones, they did not stay. They dissolved. They turned into tiny motes of magic, small, sparkling dust. This dust rose into the air. It glittered. Then it vanished. This was truly a magical place. The air carried a smell, a very unique smell. It was not one smell. It was many, all mixed together. You smelled earth, the rich, deep smell of soil. You smelled rain, a clean, fresh scent, like the smell of rain just after it falls. You smelled spices, warm spices, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg. But mixed with these, there was something else, something you had never smelled before. It was indescribably ethereal. It was like the smell of pure light, or quiet joy, or perhaps the scent of ancient stories. It was a smell that whispered of magic, of things unseen. It was everywhere. It filled your lungs with each breath. You began to walk. The path was winding. It was not straight. It twisted and turned. You felt like you were discovering something new with every step. The cobblestones felt solid under your feet, but the air around you felt light, full of possibility. You passed by many small stalls and booths. They had unusual displays. Each one was different. Each one held secrets. In one display, you saw brooms, many brooms. They were standing upright, but they were not still. They were moving by themselves. One broom gently swept the street in front of the stall. Its bristles moved in smooth, steady strokes, as if it had a mind of its own. Another broom whizzed through the air. It spun, it dipped, it played tricks, it flew in circles. It seemed to dance, and the brooms hummed a low, happy tune. A very soft, gentle hum. It was the sound of magic working. Further on, there was a bakery. The smell of sweet bread was strong. It pulled you closer. Inside the glass display, pastries floated, not on shelves, but in the air. They drifted slowly, lightly, croissants with golden crusts, small round tarts filled with glistening fruit. They spun in soft, slow circles. A few small, fluffy cakes floated higher than the rest. They looked so delicate, so perfect. Next to the bakery, a small stream flowed. It was not wide, just a narrow channel. Its water was very clear. You could see the bottom, but the fish in the stream, they glowed. They were not ordinary fish. Their scales shimmered with gentle light, blues, greens, silvers. As they swam, they left trails of tiny, bright sparks in the water. The water itself seemed to ripple with their light. It was a quiet, beautiful sight. You kept moving, deeper into the market, deeper into this new world. You started to notice the people and the creatures. They were diverse. They wore clothes made of rich fabric. Their capes were long, and they were elaborately embroidered. The stitching was fine. It showed patterns of stars, of moons, of strange mythical beasts. The colors were deep: velvets, silks, brocades. They moved with a graceful sway. Their faces held expressions of quiet wisdom or deep thought. Some carried staffs, some wore tall, pointed hats. They looked like true wizards and witches. Then there were others, smaller, different, elf-like creatures. They were slender and very delicate. Their skin had a faint shimmer. They seemed almost translucent, as if you could see faint light through them. They glided. They did not walk. Their feet barely seemed to touch the cobblestones. They moved silently. No sound came from them. They were graceful. Their movements were like flowing water or wind. They moved between the people, almost unseen. They had bright, large eyes, eyes that seemed to hold ancient secrets. You also saw gnomes. They were small and stout. They had long white beards, and their voices were loud. They were bartering loudly over enchanted trinkets, tiny bells that chimed by themselves, small polished stones that pulsed with soft light, miniature maps that showed moving landscapes. The gnomes gestured wildly with their small, strong hands. Their voices boomed with laughter or mock anger. They were full of life, full of noise, a contrast to the quiet elves. Outside a quiet inn, a horse was tethered, but it was not a common horse. It was shimmering white. Its coat was pure, like polished pearl. Its mane and tail flowed like spun moonlight, and on its flanks it had wings, large, powerful wings. They were feathered, and they shimmered with every color of the rainbow when the light touched them. This was a Pegasus, a creature of myth. Its stature was proud, its head held high, its eyes were gentle and deep. They seemed to hold the wisdom of the sky. The Pegasus stood calmly. It occasionally swished its tail. Its presence filled the street with a quiet majesty. Everything here felt like it was from another world, a world filled with magic, full of wonder. You felt it in the air, in the way the light fell, in the sounds, in the smells, in the very ground beneath your feet. It was a complete world, alive with enchantment. As you walked, you saw subtle magical things happening, not grand spells, but small, everyday magic. Street performers stood in small circles. They were conjuring illusions. A small bird made of light would fly from their hands. It would circle the audience, then vanish into shimmering motes. A flower would bloom from empty air. Its petals would unfurl slowly. Then it would fade. They were fleeting, beautiful, and utterly convincing. Children were playing nearby. They were not playing with normal balls or normal toys. They played with enchanted bubbles. These bubbles were not just clear, they shimmered with every color, and they seemed to have minds of their own. They floated, they danced, they chased the children, and when they popped, they made tiny, tinkling sounds like very small bells or distant laughter. The children giggled. Their faces were bright with joy. A musician sat by a stall. He held a lute, but his hands were still. The lute played by itself. Its strings vibrated. The music floated through the air. It was a gentle tune, a very old tune. It spoke of forests and stars and hidden rivers. The notes seemed to hang in the air. They shimmered before fading. The music was sweet. It filled the air with a soft melody. You felt a growing sense of wonder, a deep, quiet awe. This place was truly magical, beyond anything you could have imagined. Every corner held a new surprise. Every shadow seemed to hide a deeper secret. You realized you had stepped into a world that was far, far beyond your old one. It was a world that sang with magic, a world that breathed with enchantment, and you were a part of it. A deep excitement bloomed in your chest, a soft, warm feeling. It was the thrill of adventure, the joy of discovery. The market seemed to pull you deeper. With each step, the feeling grew stronger. The air became even more charged. The lights seemed to glow more brightly. The sounds became clearer. You were moving towards the market's true heart, where the biggest magic was, where the most important things happened. You felt ready. You felt eager. The simple feeling of walking was now a journey into the heart of a magical world. And you knew, with a certainty that settled deep within your bones, that this was just the beginning. The feeling of the golden bag, heavy and vibrating with power, in your hand, was a constant reminder. You were here for a purpose. Towards the central marketplace, you followed the pull, you followed the magic. Each breath was a step deeper into this wondrous new reality. Your mind was open, your senses were sharp. The market stretched before you, a maze of wonders, leading you further into its enchanting embrace. Your destination, the wand maker, felt closer with every single footstep you took on the glowing worn stones. The energy in the air intensified, buzzing with the promise of more magic. Every sight and sound solidified the reality of your new journey. You moved with purpose, drawn by the invisible threads of fate and magic that now guided your every move. This was where your adventure truly began. This was the mysterious market of magic. Chapter 2: Whispers of the Arcane and the Chosen Wand. You walked further. The winding path of the outer market slowly opened up. It led you to a wide open space. This was the central marketplace. You knew it the moment you stepped into it. The energy here was different, much stronger. It was not just a hum in the air, it was a strong pulse, a deep thrum. The air itself seemed to vibrate. It felt alive, more alive than anywhere else you had been. The magic was denser here. You could feel it pressing gently against your skin. It was like walking into a warm, soft cloud. But this cloud was made of pure power. The central marketplace was bustling. It was full of life, full of sound. Many people were gathered here. More people than you had seen anywhere else in the market. They moved with purpose. Their eyes were bright. They spoke in low, excited tones, or sometimes in loud, happy exclamations. The sounds of many voices mixed together. It was a rich tapestry of noise, a gentle murmur, broken by laughter, and sudden gasps of wonder. In the very middle of this busy square, one thing stood out. It was very big. It was a sales cart, but not a normal cart. This cart was huge. It had driven up to the center, and it was grand. Its surface was covered in carvings, very intricate carvings. They showed swirling lines and strange symbols, and tiny hidden pictures of stars and moons. The carvings were not still. They subtly shifted. They moved on their own, very slowly. So slowly you might miss it if you did not look close. And they glowed, a faint, soft glow. It made the cart seem alive. It shimmered with an inner light, like a jewel, or a living thing. Standing in front of this large, glowing cart was an old man. A very old man. He was tall and thin. He had a long white beard, very long. It flowed down his chest, like a waterfall of spun silver. His beard was clean. It looked soft. His hair was also white. It matched his beard, and it was very long too. It flowed over his shoulders, a richly decorated cloak. It was made of deep, dark blue fabric. The fabric itself seemed to be woven with stars and tiny galaxies. They shimmered and sparkled like a night sky. Every time he moved, the stars on his cloak seemed to move too, like tiny lights dancing. He stood very still, but his eyes were bright. They twinkled like distant stars. They held ancient wisdom, a very deep knowledge. You could see it in their depths. He was a very important person here. Above Elarayan's head, something floated. Many things. They were wooden sticks, just simple wooden sticks. But they were not falling, they were floating in the air. They moved gently in a slow, quiet dance, and they were active. They sprayed small sparks, tiny sparks of light. They flew from the tips of the sticks like fireflies or small bursts of magic. These sparks were not just pretty, they conjured things. They made pictures appear, pictures in the air, clear as day. At one point, the image of a dangerous dragon appeared. It was large, it was fearsome. Its scales were dark green. Its eyes glowed red. It breathed fire. Thick orange flames billowed from its mouth. The dragon moved. It moved towards the spectators. Towards the crowd, it seemed so real, so solid. The crowd gasped. A soft sound, a sound of surprise and a little fear. But the dragon did not touch them. At the last moment, it transformed. It did not explode. It did not vanish. It changed, slowly, beautifully. The dragon's scales became petals. Its wings became soft leaves. Its fiery breath became a gentle, sweet scent. It transformed into a beautiful rose, a perfect rose. Its petals were a deep, velvety red, and then its leaves slowly fell, one by one. And as they touched the stones, they too dissolved into tiny, glowing motes. Another time, the floating sticks conjured a tiny, glowing castle. It was made of pure light. Its towers spun, its windows sparkled. Then it grew. It became a towering fortress, so big it almost touched the sky. But then, with a soft shimmer, it collapsed. Not with a crash, but like mist. It folded in on itself and became a small silver key. The key then dissolved into thin air. Then a field of wild, tall grass appeared. The grass swayed in an unseen breeze. Tiny, shimmering flowers bloomed in the grass. Then the grass faded, and in its place, a flock of birds formed. Birds made of pure starlight. They flew in tight circles. They chirped with tiny, bell-like sounds. Then they soared high, higher and higher, until they were just tiny pinpricks of light, and then they were gone. The floating sticks worked their magic constantly, creating new wonders, new images, each one more surprising than the last. They showed the power of what a wand could do. Many people stood around Elarayan. They watched him. They watched the floating sticks. They watched the illusions. These were students of magic, and lots of aspiring wizards and witches. Their faces were alight, full of amazement, full of anticipation. They were eager. They wanted their own wands. They stood in a line, a slow-moving line. Each person waited for their turn. Their eyes followed Elarayan's every move. They wanted to see how he chose the wands, how the wands chose their owners. You watched them. You felt the same eagerness, the same wonder. You noticed the people in the line. A young woman with bright red hair. She wore a simple tunic. Her eyes were wide with hope. A very old gnome. His beard was even longer than Elarayan's. It was braided with tiny silver rings. He shifted from foot to foot, impatient but polite, a tall, thin man with a serious face. He wore glasses perched on his nose. He carried a stack of ancient books under his arm. He looked like a scholar, a very smart person. Each one was different, but they all shared one thing: a deep desire for a wand, a desire for magic. One by one, Elarayan served his customers. When it was someone's turn, he would give them a calm, knowing look. He would nod slowly. Then he would lead them inside his cart. The cart was much bigger inside than it looked from the outside. It was a place of deep magic. Each person spent some time inside. It was never a short visit. It always took a moment. Then they would come out. They always carried a box in their hand, a special box. The box held their new wand, and they always left happy. Their faces showed pure joy or deep satisfaction, a quiet glow around them. The red-haired woman went in first. She looked nervous. Her hands were clasped together. When she came out, her face was beaming. She held a long, thin box. Its wood was light. She hugged it close to her chest. The old gnome was next. He grumbled a little as he walked in, but when he came out, he was chuckling. His eyes twinkled. He clutched a sturdy, dark wood box. The scholar followed. He entered with his usual serious face. When he emerged, he looked thoughtful. A slow, gentle smile touched his lips. His box was plain, but it seemed to hum faintly. Each person's experience was personal, and each one was clearly successful. You watched this process. You waited patiently. Your heart beat with a soft rhythm, a rhythm of growing excitement. Your turn was coming. You felt the golden bag in your hand. It was still heavy, still tingling. The list inside seemed to warm your palm. The moment was near. You took a deep breath. The air smelled of magic, of old wood, of new beginnings. Finally, it was your turn. Elarayan looked at you. His twinkling eyes met yours. He gave you a knowing look, a look that said he had been expecting you. He did not speak, he simply nodded. And then he led you inside too. The entrance to the cart was not grand. It was just a simple opening. But stepping through it felt like stepping into another world. The inside was vast, much larger than the outside. The light was soft. It came from hidden sources. It cast long, gentle shadows. Treasures were stored there, in many, many mysterious boxes and crates. They filled the space from floor to ceiling. The walls were lined with them. The boxers were made of different woods, light woods, dark woods. Some were polished smooth, others were rough. Some were made of stone or even crystal. Each box was unique. Each one held a wand. They stood on shelves. They sat in niches. They rested in velvet-lined compartments. There were so many, more than you could count. Some of the boxes were quite dusty. They looked very old, as if they had been waiting for a very long time. They carried the smell of aged wood and quiet secrets. Others radiated a special power, a strong energy. You could feel it in the air around them. They seemed to hum, a low, gentle hum, and some of them shone. They glowed out of their boxes, a soft inner light. They pulsed faintly, a quiet invitation. Elarayan did not speak. He simply gestured. He swept his hand around the room, an invitation to look, to feel, to choose, or to be chosen. You walked slowly among the boxes. Your eyes scanned them. Your hand, holding the golden bag, reached out. It brushed against the wood, against the stone. You felt the different energies. Some felt cold, some felt warm, some felt quiet, some felt loud. Sometimes a wand would come out of its box by itself. It would lift up. It would float in the air. It would drift towards you, a gentle invitation. Elarayan would watch. He would offer it to you. He would hold it out. Try this one, his silent gaze would say. Or, this one feels strong. You would reach out your hand. Your fingers would close around the wand. The first one was long. It was made of dark, smooth wood. It felt cool in your hand. You held it. You closed your eyes. You waited for the connection, for the feeling. But nothing happened. There was no hum, no tingle, no pulse. It just felt like a stick, a very beautiful stick. You gently shook your head. Elarayan nodded. He took it back. The wand floated back to its box. Another wand drifted to you. This one was shorter. Its wood was light. It felt rough, as if made from old bark. It looked powerful. You grasped it. It felt a slight vibration, a faint buzz. But it was not strong. It did not flow. It was like a weak current. It was not enough. It did not feel like your magic. You handed it back, then another, and another. Many wands presented themselves. Each one was different. One was twisted, like a vine. It felt too light, like a feather. It seemed to try to fly from your hand. Another was heavy, very heavy. It felt like a solid bar of metal. It pulled your arm down. You could not imagine moving it with grace. A thin, delicate wand of pure white wood. It felt brittle, as if it might snap, like it might burn your skin. One wand was icy cold. It made your fingers numb. Another hummed with a loud, buzzing sound. It made your teeth ache. Each wand had its own feel, its own energy, but none of them felt right. None felt like a part of you. You picked up a wand that glowed with a soft blue light. It was beautiful, but when you held it, the light dimmed. It became dull. It did not want you. They curled and turned brown. This was not a good sign. You felt a little disheartened. Had you come all this way for nothing? Was there no wand for you? Ilarayan watched you quietly. You looked around the vast room. So many boxes, so many wands. Had you missed something? You walked towards a shadowed corner. It was a place where fewer boxers were, a place that was slightly hidden. It seemed to be tucked away, out of the main light. It was quiet here. The hum of the other wands was softer. You took a deep breath. You thought about the letter, the white raven, the tingling in your hand, the feeling of adventure. You remembered the little voice inside you, the voice that said you could do this. You concentrated. You focused your intention, not on finding a wand, but on being found, and then it happened. From that hidden corner, from the shadows, a very special wand began to rise. It did not float lazily. It did not wobble. It rose with purpose, with a smooth, graceful movement. It moved steadily towards you. But it had lighter streaks running through it, like veins of pure light. Its surface was smooth, but not polished. It felt natural, like bark that had been gently worn by time. It did not glow with a bright light. It had a very soft inner luminescence, a gentle pulse that you could almost see, a quiet, steady beat. The wand flew to you. It did not rush. It moved with elegant speed. It spun once in the air, a slow, perfect circle. Then it landed, not with a thud, not with a clang. It landed softly. Ready? It rested there. It was not too light. It was just right, perfectly balanced. And then you felt it, a connection, an undeniable connection. It was not like the faint buzz of other wands. It was a gentle pulsation, a very gentle, steady beat, like a slow, strong heart. It pulsed in your palm, right where the wand rested. This pulsation was strong and powerful. It was not just in your hand. It flowed. Very gently, powerful energy flowed through you. From your hand, where the wand was, up your arm, you felt it moving, like a warm current, a very pleasant warmth. It moved into your upper body, into your chest. You felt it spread through your heart. It was a feeling of joy, of warmth, of completeness. It moved into your shoulders, down your other arm, into your other hand. Both hands tingled with this new energy. Then it moved further. It flowed down your spine, a gentle humming sensation. It reached your hips, then your legs, down your thighs, your calves, and finally, all the way to the tips of your toes. Every part of your body was filled with this energy. It felt like awakening and connected. Feel it. You truly felt it. You connected with this power. It was pure magic. Your magic. The wand felt like an extension of yourself, like a part of you that had always been missing, and now it was found. It fit perfectly. It felt natural. It felt right. A deep sense of peace settled within you, and a quiet strength. This was no wand. there was no doubt. You noticed your wand, its quiet beauty, its perfect balance, and the connection to your deepest core, to your truest self. You felt a wave of profound understanding. This dance, this quiet, deep connection, it was everything. Now imagine that there is a trail of light following it. You thought of this. You moved your hand very slowly. The wand moved with your hand, and as it moved, a soft trail of light appeared. It was a shimmering ribbon of light. It followed the wand's tip. Every movement you made with the wand, the light followed. It was beautiful, and it felt like a silent promise, a promise of all the magic you would now be able to do. He saw the light that followed your wand. He saw the change in your posture, the quiet glow around you. He knew you had found your match. He then spoke. His voice was soft, like a rustling of old leaves. "Now," he said, "think of something that you would like to pay the wizard with." His voice was gentle. It was an instruction and a gift. You focused. You closed your eyes for a moment. You held the wand, the first thing that came straight to your mind. It was not money. It was not gold. It was a feeling, a pure thought. But floating in the air, between you and Elarayan, it materialized. It was a shimmering sphere, no bigger than your fist. Inside the sphere, a scene played out. It was a moment of pure, forgotten joy, a memory, a feeling. It was the soft glow of dawn on a silent forest, the smell of dew, the first bird song, a sense of deep peace. It was a perfect, captured feeling, unique, personal, and full of quiet beauty. This was your payment. You gently waved your wand again. The sphere of captured feeling floated closer to Elarayan. He reached out a hand. His fingers, old and wise, closed around it. He held it for a moment. They shone brighter than before. "Thank you," he said. His voice was a soft whisper, full of deep appreciation, a gift of pure feeling, a rare and precious payment. He nodded slowly. Its true potential lies not in grand displays, but in the subtle shaping of reality. It thrives on quiet intentions, on deep connections. If you truly listen to its silent song. He paused. His gaze became distant, as if looking far away, beyond the walls of the cart, beyond the market, beyond the world. "The path ahead," he said, his voice now a deeper murmur, "is one of discovery and remembrance. Trust the whisper, not the shout. Be mindful," he finished, his words like a soft breeze, "of what you seek. And always, always, remember the silent heartbeat that guides you." His words settled in your mind. They were cryptic, hard to understand fully now, but they felt important. They felt true. You knew you would remember them. They felt like seeds planted for future growth. You held your wand. It felt warm in your hand. "A partner," you thanked Elarayan with a deep nod, a silent promise to remember his words. You turned, and you stepped out of the vast, magical cart, back into the bustling central marketplace. The light seemed brighter now, the sounds clearer, the magic in the air felt even more potent. You had your wand. Your journey had truly begun. The next step awaited. You looked at your list, the magical piece of paper in your other hand. It shimmered faintly, ready for the next adventure, ready for the cauldron. You felt ready too, more ready than you had ever been. The deep hum of the market felt like a welcome now, a powerful, ancient welcome to your new magical life. Chapter 3. The Cauldrons, Steam, and the Weaver of Whispers. You held your new wand. It felt warm and alive in your hand. The subtle pulse of its energy was a comforting beat. The paper shimmered faintly, showing the next item needed. It was time for a cauldron and herbs. The air still vibrated with powerful magic. The sounds of the crowd, the gentle hum of Elarayan's cart, and the distant music from the lute player all blended together. You felt a sense of purpose, a quiet determination. You started walking. Your eyes scanned the stalls. You looked for signs of cauldrons, signs of herbs. The path twisted slightly. You passed a booth where small, shimmering bottles hung. They glowed with faint colored lights. Then you saw it. A stall unlike the others. It was not just one stall. It was a cluster of them. They seemed to grow out of each other, like old trees with many branches. This was the Cauldron and Herb Store. You knew it instantly. The shop was overflowing. It was truly overflowing with cauldrons. Everywhere you looked, there were cauldrons. They were stacked high, on shelves, on tables, on the ground, small enough to fit in your palm. Others were massive. Some were dark, heavy iron. Their surfaces were rough and very black. Other cauldrons were smooth, shining copper, and some were made of strange, unknown metals. Metals you had never seen before. They had faint colors, or they seemed to change color as you looked at them. They were truly unusual. Many of the cauldrons were still bubbling. They hissed, they steamed. A soft, constant sound filled the air. The sound of liquid bubbling. The steam rose in misty clouds. It curled upwards. Then it mixed with the air. The liquids inside the cauldrons were not just clear water. They were iridescent. This means they shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. One cauldron held a liquid that pulsed with soft greens and purples. Another had a liquid that glowed golden, like melted sunlight. It sent small, happy bubbles to the surface. A third cauldron held a dark, swirling liquid that seemed to absorb the light. It was deep and mysterious. The bubbles were constant. They rose steadily, small bubbles, large bubbles. They popped softly at the surface, releasing more of the strange scents into the air. The smells were strong here, very strong, and very unusual. First, you smelled flowers, sweet flowers, like blooming roses or delicate jasmine, but also strange unknown flowers, flowers that grew only in magical lands. Their scent was rich and deep, warm, rich spices like cinnamon bark or star anise. You could almost taste the warmth in the air. But then there was something else, something truly unique, something you had never smelled before. It was a mix of things, like freshly spun moonlight, or the breath of ancient stones, or the quiet hum of secrets. It was all these things, and more. The air was thick with these combined aromas. It filled your nose, it filled your mind. It was intoxicating and strangely calming. As you moved deeper into the store, you saw the owner. She was a witch. She stood amidst the cauldrons. She seemed perfectly at home among them. Her hair was wild and tangled, or a cluster of autumn leaves, but small braids were woven into her hair, tiny braids. And in these braids, small, colorful flowers were tucked. Bright red ones, deep blue ones, sunny yellow ones. They looked fresh, as if they had just been picked. They added a touch of wild beauty to her appearance. She had a friendly smile on her face, a very wide smile. It made her eyes crinkle at the corners. Her eyes were warm and kind. They were a deep green color, like moss in a sunlit forest. Her face was smudged with various marks, ash or dried herbs, or perhaps something else. Her hands were stained. They were stained with different colors, purple, green, brown, like an artist's hands or a gardener's hands, hands that worked constantly with living things and with potions. You could tell she spent all her time mixing and brewing. Her nails were short and practical, but there was a strong, gentle look about her. She seemed full of warmth and good humor. Her clothes were simple, a loose tunic and an apron. Both were also smudged with colors and seemed to have faint herbal smells on them. She was busy, but she seemed very happy in her work. She seemed to sense your presence. She looked up. Her eyes met yours. She had been stirring something in a small, bubbling cauldron. It gave off a soft, rose-colored steam, as if she spent much time breathing in steam. She looked at your list, then she looked at you. Her gaze was friendly. She knew you needed a cauldron. She pointed with a finger. Her finger was stained green. She pointed to a smaller cauldron. It was on a low shelf. It looked very ordinary, very simple. It was dark iron, not shining, not glowing, just plain. And it seemed to shrink. As you approached it, it seemed to get even smaller, a tiny bit smaller. It was strange. "This one," she said, her voice soft but clear. "It shrunk, but just for the moment," she chuckled. A soft, rumbling sound. "It does that for easy carrying. Very convenient. Not everyone wants a big pot banging around on their broom." She paused. "And when you get to the magic school," she continued, "it will transform to the size you want. With the magic of your wand," she gestured to your wand, the one that still pulsed gently in your hand. She knew its power. She respected it. You looked at the small cauldron. It was indeed shrinking, not disappearing, but compacting, becoming very dense, very small. It was a neat trick. You reached out your free hand. You picked it up. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, very solid. Its surface was cool to the touch, but you could feel a faint hum from it, a quiet potential. It felt right. It felt strong. You knew this was the cauldron for you. Morwen, for that was her name, began to share things, insights about cauldron use, about potion making, or sharing secrets with a friend. She spoke of the properties of different metals. "Iron," she said, gesturing to your chosen cauldron, "is good for strong brews, for protective potions. It holds heat well, and it resists dark energies. Very sturdy, very reliable." Her voice was soft, like a secret. "Copper," she continued, pointing to a shimmering copper cauldron nearby, "is for healing, for gentle elixirs. It helps to mix ingredients smoothly, and it holds delicate scents. Good for beauty spells too." She gave a little wink. Her eyes crinkled again. "Silver," she added, touching a cool silver cauldron, "is for visions, for seeing the future, or for truth serums. It helps to clear the mind, and to focus intent. The most important thing," she said, her voice becoming a little more serious, "is your intention, what you put into the pot. Not just the herbs or the water, but your thoughts, your feelings, your purpose. Every stir of the ladle, every single drop you add, it must be filled with your true desire, your honest heart. A strong intention makes a strong potion. A true intention makes a true potion. Without it, even the best herbs are just leaves in hot water." She looked at you intently. Her green eyes held deep wisdom. She wanted you to understand this. It was crucial. You listened carefully. You nodded. You felt her words. They made sense. They resonated deep within you. It was not just about following a recipe. It was about putting your spirit into the work. You thanked her for her wisdom. Your hand tightened gently around the cauldron. You felt a connection to it now, not just as an object, but as a partner in future magic. Now it was time to pay. You remembered what Elorion had said. You held your wand. Its pulsation was steady. You thought of what you desired to pay the witch with. The first thing that came to your mind, it was a color, a very specific color, and a sound, and a feeling. It was the deep, velvety purple of a twilight sky, just as the first stars appear, and the soft, rustling sound of dry leaves on a quiet autumn evening, and the feeling of calm contentment, a memory of a very quiet, perfect moment. You waved your wand again, not with a grand gesture, but with a soft, gentle sweep. Whatever you desired to pay the witch with appeared in front of you, floating in the air. It was a wisp of mist. It was purple, a deep, rich purple, and it swirled softly inside the mist. You could hear faint, rustling sounds, like whispered secrets, like leaves dancing in a gentle wind, and the mist itself radiated calm, a soft, serene feeling. It was a pure manifestation of your thought. Morwen gasped softly. Her eyes widened. Her smile became even brighter. She reached out. Her stained fingers gently cupped the purple mist. It did not vanish. It stayed. It pulsed with the calm feeling. She breathed it in slowly, deeply. Her face softened even more. A look of pure delight spread across it. "Oh my," she breathed. Her voice was full of wonder. A wisp of twilight calm, and the whisper of ancient leaves. "This is truly a treasure, a rare and beautiful payment indeed." She held it close to her chest. It seemed to sink into her clothes, to become part of her. As a thank you, Morwen reached under her counter. Her hands moved swiftly. She pulled out a small, intricately woven pouch. It was made of soft green moss and tiny, dried flowers. It smelled wonderful. She opened the pouch. Inside, there were herbs, many different kinds, all carefully dried, all looking very precious. She picked out a small bundle. It was a mix of several plants. Their leaves were dark green, and some had tiny silver specks. Others had small, dried berries. They looked plain, but you knew they were not. "These," she said, pressing the small bundle into your hand, "are healing herbs, very special ones, a mix of sun petal and moon whisper, and a touch of start time." Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Keep them in your cauldron. They will stay fresh there always." The herbs felt soft and dry. They smelled faintly of mint and sunlight, and something else, something like quiet comfort. She then leaned in closer. Her voice dropped even more. It was a soft, almost inaudible whisper. "You will need them," she said. Her green eyes looked deeply into yours. "Not now, not soon, but one day, when shadows grow long and light seems far away, they will bring comfort and healing, not just for the body, but for the spirit. Remember, true healing begins within, with hope and with strength. These herbs are but a reminder." Her words were like a small, gentle breeze. They carried a hint of prophecy, a soft warning, and a deep encouragement. You felt the warmth of the herbs in your hand, and the weight of her words in your heart. You would remember. You nodded. You carefully placed the small bundle of herbs into your newly acquired cauldron. The cauldron, though small for transport, seemed to welcome them. You felt a soft warmth emanate from it as they settled inside. It was a good feeling, a feeling of preparedness. As you stood there, you also observed the other customers in the shop. The atmosphere was one of bustling, knowledgeable exchange. It was not just buying and selling, it was sharing and learning, a true hub for potion masters and herbalists. An elf-like creature, translucent and graceful, stood at a nearby counter. Its movements were precise. Its long, slender fingers moved with extreme care. It was meticulously selecting tiny drops of liquid from many small vials. These vials shimmered with faint light. "Moon petal dew," you heard a low, soft voice say. The elf was speaking to a silent assistant. The dew looked like tiny, glowing pearls. Each one held a drop of cool blue light. The elf held a small silver spoon. It carefully scooped the dew from the vials. Each scoop was measured. Each drop was placed into a larger, crystal container. The elf's face was serious, focused. Its large eyes were fixed on the task. It seemed to know exactly what it was doing. Every movement was perfect. It was clearly preparing something very delicate and very powerful. He pointed a stubby finger at a glass jar. The jar held a shimmering, dark red liquid. It pulsed with heat. You could almost feel the warmth from where you stood. "Dragon's breath extract," the gnome boomed. His voice was loud, full of protest. "Too expensive. This is last week's batch. I can smell it." The merchant, a plump woman with bright, quick eyes, laughed loudly. Her laugh echoed among the cauldrons. "Nonsense, Grisnack. This is prime. Fresh from the volcanic vents yesterday. It still hums with fire," the gnome grumbled. He crossed his arms, but his eyes kept flicking to the jar. He clearly wanted it. He needed it. They argued back and forth, their voices filling the air with a lively, good-natured quarrel. The gnome wanted a good price. The merchant wanted her due. It was a dance of words, a common sight in any market. But here, it was about dragon's breath. It covered the figure almost completely. You could not see a face, just the deep shadows of the hood. The figure was very quiet, very still. It seemed to absorb the light around it. It spoke in hushed tones, very low. So low you could barely hear the words, but you saw what it was purchasing. A small, clear vial. It held a completely transparent liquid. It had no color, no shimmer. It looked like pure water, but it was not water. You knew that. You could feel a faint, cool energy from it. A very subtle hum. The cloaked figure was purchasing a truth serum. The merchant behind the counter, a thin, serious man, handled the vial with extreme care. His movements were slow, precise. He looked around him, as if checking that no one else was listening. The exchange was quiet and very secret. It hinted at deeper, more serious magical matters. Matters that were not for common knowledge. The shop itself was a tapestry of specialized knowledge. Every shelf, it held a specific purpose. There were sections for love potions, for protection charms, for growth elixirs, for memory spells, and for many things you could not even guess. You saw small labeled bags of dried ingredients, phoenix tears, one label read, glimmerwing dust, another said, whispering roots. The names themselves sounded magical. They spoke of rare creatures and forgotten places, and ancient magic. One moment, it smelled of sweet, warm spices. The next, it carried a sharp, clean scent, like fresh rain. Then, a faint hint of something metallic, like ozone after a lightning strike. The steam from the cauldrons curled and twisted. It formed ghostly shapes. Sometimes a face would briefly form in the mist, then it would dissolve. Sometimes a tiny, spectral animal would dance, then it would fade. It was like the shop itself was breathing and dreaming and sharing its own quiet magic. This was where the practical magic happened. The mixing, the brewing, the creation. It was a place of skill and wisdom, and secret recipes passed down through generations. Morwen moved among her customers. Her smile never left her face. She offered advice. She shared small tips. She listened patiently to questions. She was a true master of her craft, and she was happy to share her knowledge. You looked at the herbs inside, healing and promising. You felt the wand in your hand, connected and powerful. You had completed another part of your list. You felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment. The market was a world of wonders, and you were slowly gathering the tools you needed, not just physical tools, but also knowledge and experience, and a growing understanding of this magical world. You bid farewell to Morwen. She nodded kindly, and your intentions clear. You smiled. You thanked her again. You turned and left the bustling cauldron and herb store. The sounds of bubbling pots faded behind you. The rich mix of smells lingered on your clothes, on your skin. It was a warm reminder of the magic you had just experienced. You stepped back into the winding alleys of the central marketplace. The next item on your list called to you. The last item, something very special. Something that would let you fly. The brooms. You knew where they were. At the very end of the marketplace, you walked towards them, towards the open space where brooms danced and played. Your heart felt light and ready, ready for the next piece of your magical journey, ready for the skies, ready for the broom. The feeling of purpose was stronger than ever. The hum of your wand was a steady companion. The market was still vast, but it felt familiar now, like a path you were meant to walk, a destiny unfolding. Each step was a quiet affirmation. Each breath was a deepening of your connection to this magical world. You were a part of it now, fully, completely, and the journey continued. Chapter 4. The skittish steed of the sky and the broom's unveiling. You had your cauldron. It was small for carrying, but full of promise. And you had your wand. It rested warmly in your hand, its quiet pulse a steady beat against your palm. The last item on your magical list called to you, the one that promised flight, the broom. You knew where to go. It was at the very end of the marketplace. You started walking again. The path twisted and turned, but you moved with clear purpose. Your journey through the market was nearing its completion. As you walked, the market continued its magic. The stalls were still thick on either side. They were full of strange goods, and they were full of people. But here, near the end, something different happened. The stalls moved. They did not move by themselves all the time, only when you needed to pass. If you walked on without hesitation, if you kept your gaze forward, everything would automatically slide aside. It was as if the market itself knew your destination, it knew your need, and it made a clear path for you. You saw it happen. Ahead of you, two large stalls stood close together. They blocked the way completely. One sold glowing mushrooms, the other sold miniature enchanted fountains. You simply kept walking. You did not pause, you did not doubt. As you approached, a soft crunching sound began. It was not a loud noise. It was a gentle, grating sound, like large stones being slowly pushed. The ground itself seemed to shift. The cobblestones under your feet vibrated faintly. The stalls began to slide, very slowly at first, then faster. They made a wide opening for you. Their bright displays vanished from view, tucked behind their new positions. As they moved, small dust clouds formed. The dust was fine. It rose from the cobblestones. It shimmered with tiny motes of light. It looked like golden pollen or silver glitter. It swirled in the air. For a moment, the dust was everywhere. It tickled your nose softly. Then, just as quickly as it formed, the dust settled. It vanished, as if it had never been there. The path was now open, wide and clear. You walked through the new space. It was quiet, like a secret passage. And then, behind you, the stalls slid back. They closed the path with the same soft, crunching sound. They stood just as they had been before, as if they had never moved at all. Each time you approached a crowded area, each time a stall stood in your way, they moved, they opened, they closed. It was a quiet magic, a polite magic. It made your journey easy. It made your way clear. You felt truly welcomed by the market itself. The market was a living thing, and it was guiding you. It was helping you. This was the broom vendor's stall, but it was not really a stall. It was more like an open field or a grand arena. It was a vibrant place, full of life, full of movement. It was a dynamic display. They flew freely. They danced in the air. They darted and spun. They were not just tools. They were like playful animals, or like silent birds. One broom swept the street by itself. It had no rider. Its bristles moved in wide, smooth arcs. It gathered dust and tiny fallen leaves. It pushed them neatly into piles. Then, with a soft whirry sound, the piles vanished. The broom was very diligent. It was very thorough. It kept the area perfectly clean. Another broom whizzed across the marketplace. It was faster, much faster. It zipped through the air. It performed tricks, many tricks. It spun in tight circles. It looped, it rolled. It plunged towards the ground, then pulled up at the last second. It was full of energy, full of joy. It was a show-off broom. It seemed to want everyone to watch it. It played tricks on people. Sometimes it would sweep away the hat of a magician, a tall, pointed hat. The magician would curse loudly, not truly angry, but surprised. He would pick up his headgear from the street again. The broom would then zoom away, its bristles shimmering with mischief. Small children, it would follow them very closely. Then it would nudge them gently, just a soft poke. The children would laugh. They would shriek with delight, and then they would chase the broom, their faces full of smiles. The broom would dart away, leading them on a merry chase. It was a playful spirit, a truly lively broom. You saw a group of brooms flying in formation. They moved like trained birds. They made complex patterns in the sky, spirals and waves and zigzags. They hummed a low, steady tune as they flew, a sound of coordinated movement, a sound of shared purpose. Other brooms sat quietly on display stands. They looked sleek and fast. Their wood was polished to a high shine. Their bristles were neat. Each one had its own character. its own silent story. You smiled, a true smile. This place was wonderful. It was full of life, full of laughter, full of magic in its purest form. You stepped up to the display. You looked at all the brooms. They were beautiful. Each one was unique. You felt the wind stir your hair. It was a clean wind. It smelled of open spaces and the sky. A man came up to you. He seemed to appear out of nowhere. He was the salesman, the broom vendor. His name was Fenris. He was nimble. His movements were quick and light, like a dancer or a cat. He had windswept hair. It was brown and thick. It looked like he spent much time flying. It stood up in various directions, as if caught in a permanent breeze. He had a mischievous glint in his eye. His eyes were a bright blue. They sparkled with fun, and with knowing, he grinned, a wide, friendly grin. He was full of life, full of energy. He looked at your magic list. He seemed to recognize it instantly. He looked at you. His eyes scanned your face. He seemed to see your purpose. He understood why you were there. He understood what you needed. He did not speak many words. His eyes did the talking. He recognized you as a new student, someone seeking their first broom, and he was eager to help. In no time at all, Fenris presented you with brooms, the most beautiful brooms. He waved a hand, and a sleek, dark broom floated towards you. Its wood was like polished obsidian. Its bristles were like spun midnight. It looked very fast. It hummed with a low, powerful sound. This one, Fenris seemed to say with his eyes, is built for speed, for races, for long journeys. You reached out a hand. You touched it. It felt powerful, but it did not feel like your power. It felt like something separate, something you might ride, but not connect with. You gently shook your head. Fenris smiled. He did not mind. He understood. He presented another broom. This one was lighter. Its wood was pale, like birch. Its bristles were soft and feathery. It looked graceful, like a bird. It floated with gentle ease. This one, his eyes seemed to say, is for gentle journeys, for quiet exploration, for weaving through misty forests. You touched it. It felt delicate. Too delicate for you. It seemed to shy away from your touch, like a nervous deer. You knew it was not the one. He showed you several magnificent brooms. One was thick and sturdy, made for carrying heavy loads, or for stormy weather. Another was short and nimble, made for tight spaces and quick turns. Each broom was impressive. Each one was powerful in its own way. But as you held them or touched them, you felt no deep connection, no inner hum, no feeling of rightness. They were magnificent, yes, but they were not yours. You felt a faint sigh of disappointment. Was your broom not here? You took your time. You did not rush. You looked around the whole display. You wanted to be sure. You scanned the rows of resting brooms, the ones that waited patiently. You looked at the active brooms, the ones that danced and played. Your eyes moved over every single one. You listened to the quiet whispers of your own intuition. You listened for the subtle pull. And then, in a small corner, it was a dusty corner, tucked away behind a pile of older models, brooms that looked a bit worn, a bit forgotten. There, you discovered your broom. It was not shining. It was not glowing. It did not hum loudly. It was quiet. Its wood was a deep, warm brown. It looked like plain oak, nothing fancy. Its bristles were a natural straw color. They were thick and sturdy, but they were not perfectly neat. A few strands stuck out. It looked humble and strong. Something told you, a quiet certainty, a very strong feeling. This belongs to me. It did not shout at you. It did not demand attention. It simply settled in your heart, a deep, quiet knowing. This was the one. You felt it. You simply knew it. You walked towards it, Your steps were slow, careful. You reached out your hand, you picked it up, you held it in your hands. It felt smooth. The wood was not polished to a gleam, but it felt smooth, worn smooth, as if many hands had held it, many years had passed over it. You could feel the grain of the wood, the tiny imperfections. They felt right. They felt real. You felt the wood, its texture, its warmth. And you felt something else, a subtle vibration, very faint, almost a tremor. It was not a shaky vibration. It was a steady, quiet hum, like a tuning fork, and then a pulsation, a distinct pulsation. It was not a fast beat. It was slow and deep and very playful, but it was in harmony with it. It was its own rhythm, but it fit. You felt it. It was alive. This broom was alive. It had its own spirit, its own quiet energy. It felt perfectly balanced in your hands. It felt like it was made for you, and you for it. It was not too heavy, it was not too light. It felt right, utterly right. The broom, once chosen, seemed to straighten slightly, as if in recognition. Its bristles seemed to fluff up a tiny bit. Its humble wood seemed to glow with a very, very faint inner warmth. It was a subtle change, but you felt it. You knew it. Fenris, the broom vendor, had watched you. He had stayed quiet. He had let you choose. Now he approached. His mischievous eyes sparkled. "Ah," he said softly. His voice was not loud. They always find their way to their rightful owner. They don't make a fuss, don't show off, but their loyalty is unmatched. They will carry you through anything, through the wildest storms, through the deepest mists. They are true partners, not just tools. He smiled, a warm, understanding smile. They might seem plain, he added, but their magic runs deep, like the roots of an ancient tree. His words confirmed what you already felt. His broom, your broom, was special, very special. You thanked Fenris, a sincere thank you. You felt a deep gratitude. You held your wand again. Its hum was steady. You thought of a suitable payment. For this broom, this quiet, loyal friend, the first thing that came to your mind was a sound, a very specific sound, and a feeling. It was the sound of distant thunder. Not angry thunder, but the deep, rolling sound of a summer storm far away. The sound of rain starting to fall on a thirsty land, and the feeling of hopeful anticipation, a powerful feeling. You waved your wand again, a soft, gentle wave. Whatever you desired to pay Fenris with appeared in front of you, floating in the air. It was a wisp of dark, shimmering cloud, small, no bigger than your hand. Inside the cloud, you could hear the faint, deep rumble of thunder, a very soft, distant sound, and you could feel the promise, the quiet, hopeful feeling. The mist pulsed with that feeling. It was a piece of future weather. Fenris's eyes widened. He stared at the shimmering cloud. His mischievous grin softened into pure wonder. He reached out a hand. Slowly he touched the cloud. The gentle rumble of thunder seemed to echo softly around him. He felt the hopeful anticipation. By the winds, he whispered. His voice was full of awe, a fragment of a coming storm's promise, and the hope of rain. I have seen many payments, many fine things, but never anything like this. He closed his eyes for a moment. He held the cloud. "This is a payment for the ages," he breathed. "A true gift of magic. Thank you. Thank you, aspiring wizard." His face was alight with genuine delight. He truly marveled at your unique offering. He had never expected such a profound payment. Fenris then began to offer you a lesson, an informal lesson, on broom care and handling. He did not speak like a teacher. He spoke like a friend, like a fellow rider. "This broom, being of oak," he said, gesturing to your broom, "likes honest care. A simple polish with moonbeam dew now and then keeps the wood smooth, keeps its spirit bright." He showed you how to check the bristles. "These are strong," he said, "good for gripping the air. Just brush out any dust after a long flight. Keep them clean, not just your hands." He shared anecdotes, stories of famous riders and their brooms. "There was old Ilara Meadowsweet," he chuckled. "Her broom, Whisperwind, was a shy thing, never flew for anyone but her. But it once carried her over 3 mountain ranges in a single night, through a blizzard, just because she asked politely, and with true need in her heart." He laughed softly. "Then there was Barnaby Bolt. His broom, Thunderclap, was a wild beast, always trying to throw him off. But it could outrace anything. Treat it with respect, treat it with kindness, and it will be your truest companion." He gave you a few quick tips on basic handling. "For takeoff," he explained, demonstrating with a quick gesture a firm push with your feet and a clear image in your mind of where you want to go. Don't hesitate. Brooms hate hesitation. For steering, a gentle lean, a shift of your weight. The broom feels your thought. It becomes part of you. For landing, a slow glide, a gentle descent, and a soft touchdown, and natural. He made it sound like dancing. You felt a sense of quiet anticipation, a thrilling readiness. You now had your broom, your loyal, unassuming broom. It felt sturdy, it felt strong, it felt perfectly aligned with your spirit. You were ready to take to the skies, to feel the wind in your hair, to explore the world from above. The market had given you so much. A wand, a cauldron, and now a broom. All the basic equipment, but more than that, it had given you a deep sense of connection to magic, to this new world, and to yourself. You said goodbye to Fenris. Every item checked off. You had everything you needed. Your wand hummed softly in your hand. Your cauldron, small and compact, was securely held. Your broom rested comfortably. You felt a deep sense of satisfaction, a quiet joy. The last stage of your journey in the market was done. You had found what you came for, but you had also found more. You had found confidence. You had found a deeper understanding of magic itself. The market. You took a deep breath. The air still hummed with magic. It was time for the next step. The school of magic awaited. You were ready, more than ready. You were eager, and a quiet thrill of anticipation sparked in your heart. The grand adventure was about to begin. The final journey. The path forward was clear, shimmering with the promise of more magic, more learning, and more discovery. You knew this was just the beginning. The feeling of the broom, vibrant and ready, in your grasp was a constant, comforting presence. It felt like an extension of your own hopeful spirit. The world felt bigger, richer, and full of possibility. Every fiber of your being was alive with this new, magical reality. Chapter 5. The market's deeper current and the dreamer's respite. You stood at the end of the marketplace. Your shopping was complete. The golden bag, still heavy with magic dust, hung comfortably by your side. Your new wand, warm and alive, rested securely in your hand. Your small, powerful cauldron, now compact for travel, was tucked away safely, and your loyal, unassuming broom, full of quiet potential, was held close. You had gathered everything on your list. A sense of quiet triumph filled you. A gentle warmth spread through your chest. You had done it. You had faced the wondrous, chaotic market. But as you stood there, a subtle shift began in the air. It was not sudden, it was slow, like the turning of a tide or the changing of the seasons. The vibrant energy of the market, which had been so bright and playful, now took on a different feel. It became slightly mysterious, a little more serious, perhaps even watchful. The laughter from the children playing with enchanted bubbles seemed to fade just a little. The music from the self-playing lute seemed to weave a more thoughtful tune, not a dark veil, but one that hinted at deeper things, at hidden currents, at secrets waiting beneath the surface. You noticed this change. It was not something you could see directly, but you could feel it, in the way the air moved, in the way the shadows seemed to deepen just a little. Even the light from the old oil lanterns, which had hummed with happy power, now seemed to pulse with a more ancient rhythm, a very slow, deliberate beat. The golden leaves still sailed gently to the ground from the chestnut trees, dissolving into motes of magic. But now, you noticed that some of those motes lingered. They drifted, and they formed patterns, very faint patterns. As you looked closer, you began to see these patterns everywhere. They were recurring symbols. This means they appeared again and again, in many different places. They were not bold. They were subtle, hidden in plain sight. They were etched into the market stalls. You had not noticed them before, but now your eyes were sharper, your senses were more open. On a wooden stall that sold glowing fungi, a swirl was carved into the counter. It was simple, just 3 lines curving together, a quiet symbol of connection. On the cloaks of certain vendors, you saw them too. A small silver pin on a cloak. It showed a single eye. Not a watchful eye, but a seeing eye. An eye that understood deep truths. The merchant wearing it moved with a quiet dignity. You had passed him before. You had not noticed the pin. Now it seemed to glow faintly, a cool silver glow. On another cloak, belonging to a seller of enchanted maps, a symbol was woven into the fabric itself. It was a cluster of 3 stars, not random stars. They were perfectly aligned. They pulsed with a gentle inner light. They looked like a constellation, a tiny, secret group of stars. This was not just decoration. It was a sign, a marker. Even in the patterns of light filtering through the golden leaves of the chestnut trees, you saw them. As the light hit the ground, it sometimes formed small, intricate shapes. Briefly, before they dissolved, one shape was like a flowing river, but it was not water. It was pure light. It seemed to move across the cobblestones. Another shape was like a single, upright feather. It was made of pure sunlight. It stood tall, then it vanished. These were not just random shapes. They were deliberate. They appeared in just the right places, and they were fleeting, like whispers. You realized these symbols hinted at something beyond commerce, beyond just buying and selling. They spoke of a deeper structure, a hidden purpose to the market itself, a place of ancient rules and secret knowledge. It was a veil, a beautiful, shimmering veil, but beneath it, something more profound existed, something very old and very wise. The market was a stage, but it also had a backstage, and you were starting to see glimpses of it. Then, a brief, unsettling encounter occurred. It was not loud, it was not violent, it was very subtle, but it made you feel watched. You were walking past a narrow alleyway. It was dark, full of shadows, the kind of place you might not normally notice. But something drew your eye. A fleeting glimpse. A figure. It was cloaked and hooded. Its face was hidden deep in the shadows. You could not see any features, but you felt its gaze. You felt eyes on you. You felt a presence, a very still presence. It was observing you, not with malice, but with a quiet intensity, as if weighing you or judging you. It was there for only a second. Then it seemed to melt back into the darkness. Or perhaps it was never truly there, just a shadow playing tricks. But the feeling lingered, the feeling of being seen, deeply seen, by something unknown. A little later, you overheard a fragment of a conversation. It was hushed, very quiet, but the air seemed to carry the sound directly to your ears. Two figures stood close together, by a stall selling ancient scrolls. Their voices were low, almost a whisper. "The veil thins," one voice said. It was a deep voice, resonant. "The balance shifts." The other voice was lighter, more anxious. "Is it time for the choosing?" the first voice replied. "Soon the currents deepen, the market prepares." And then they moved away. Their words vanished into the general hum of the crowd. The veil thins, the balance shifts, the choosing. These words were cryptic, but they echoed the feeling you had just experienced. The market's enchantment, the beautiful, sparkling wonder. It now felt like a thin veil, a shimmering curtain, over something deeper, something more serious, something vast and powerful. It was not just a place to shop. It was a place where ancient forces moved, where destinies were shaped. And you, a new student of magic, were now part of it. This thought was not scary. It was awe-inspiring. It was humbling. It made the magic feel even more real, even more important. You paused. You stood still for a moment. All your shopping was done. Your list was complete. You held your wand. It felt like a part of you. The cauldron and broom were secured, but you felt a new sensation, a wave of fatigue. It washed over you, not a heavy, crushing tiredness, but a gentle weariness. The day had been long and full of wonder, full of new experiences, full of powerful magic. It had been an intense experience, very intense. Like a cup filled to the brim, your body felt the gentle pull of rest. The tingling from the magic dust, from your new wand, from the very air of the market, had been exciting. But it had also been draining, a quiet energy drain. Yet, mixed with this fatigue was a profound anticipation, a deep excitement for what came next. The School of Magic, Arcanum Spire, the grand castle from the seal. It called to you, a powerful magnet. You were tired, but you were also eager. Your spirit was ready, but your body needed a moment to rest, a moment to process, a moment to simply be. You remembered the introduction, the gentle voice that had suggested a place, a dreamy place, a place where you could feel comfortable and relax. You looked at the golden bag in your hand. It was still full of magic dust. You had used it to get here. You could use it again, for a moment of respite, before the grand journey to the school, a quiet interlude, a pause between two powerful adventures. It was a perfect idea, a perfect need. You decided to go to that dreamy place, a beautiful mountain meadow, surrounded by many fragrant flowers. You closed your eyes for a moment. You took a deep breath. You imagined the meadow, the green grass, the soft earth, the distant peaks, the clear night sky. You reached into the golden bag. Your fingers found the fine, shimmering dust. You took a pinch, a small amount. You held it between your fingers. It sparkled with tiny lights. It felt cool, then warm. It hummed softly. You imagined crumbling some dust between your fingers. You did it. It shimmered. It glowed. A very soft, gentle swirl of energy surrounded you again. It was even softer this time, more like a caress, less like a quick transport. You felt a gentle lifting, a floating sensation. The sounds of the market softened. The smells faded. The very ground beneath your feet became less solid. You felt yourself drifting, lightly, effortlessly, like a feather on a soft breeze. The air became cooler. It smelled cleaner. You felt a sense of vastness, of open space. You were gently transported, not with a jolt, but with a seamless flow. You opened your eyes. You were no longer in the bustling market. It was night. The sky above was a deep, velvet blue. So deep, so dark. It was bathed in the soft glow of a starlit night sky. Thousands upon thousands of stars, they shone in the firmament. They were countless, each one a tiny diamond, each one a distant sun. They were so clear, so intensely bright. They illuminated your surroundings. They cast a soft ethereal glow over the meadow. The light was silvery. It made everything look magical, as if painted with moonlight. The air was wonderfully clear, and it was cool. A refreshing coolness. It carried the sweet fragrance of countless magical flowers. They grew everywhere. Across the meadow, as far as you could see, they were not ordinary flowers. Some were subtly glowing. Their petals held a soft inner light. Some glowed with pale blues, like captured sky. Others with gentle purples, like dawn mist. Still others with soft yellows, like faint starlight on the ground. They pulsed gently, a very soft, slow rhythm. Their light was not bright. It was soothing. It painted the meadow with soft, shifting colors. Other flowers were humming, not with a loud sound, but with a very quiet, almost unheard energy, a low vibration. If you leaned close, you might hear a faint, high-pitched song, like tiny bells or happy insects. Their petals were soft. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some were tall, some were small. Some had many petals, some had just a few, but all of them smelled wonderful. A mix of familiar flower scents and something wild, something untamed, something utterly magical. The fragrance was rich. It filled your lungs with each breath. It was a calming scent, a scent of peace, a scent of pure nature. Then you decided to lie down. The grass was long and soft. It was like a thick, green carpet. You lowered yourself slowly, gently. You felt the soft meadow beneath you. It cradled your body. It felt cool and comforting. You could feel the gentle rise and fall of the earth beneath you, as if the meadow itself was breathing. A very slow, steady breath. It was a feeling of deep connection to the ground, to the earth, to something vast and ancient. You lay there. Their sweet scents surrounded you. A fine wind blew over you. It was not a strong wind. It was a gentle breeze. It rustled the long grass. It stirred the petals of the glowing flowers. It carried their smells to you. You felt it on your face. A cool, soft touch. You enjoyed their smells. You breathed them in deeply. They filled your senses. They soothed your mind. You remembered the strange, playful fluttering of the parchment, the surprising touch on your nose, the revelation of the castle crest, the words "School of Magic for Aspiring Wizards," the sudden appearance of the golden bag, and the list, the tingling power in your hand, the first pinch of magic dust, the shift into the market, the golden leaves sailing to the ground, dissolving into magic. You saw the mix of people, humans in embroidered cloaks, translucent elf-like creatures gliding silently, loud bartering gnomes, the majestic winged Pegasus. You remembered the self-stirring brooms, the floating pastries, the glowing fish in the stream, all the wonders of the outer market. You remembered the floating wooden sticks above his head, the illusions they conjured, the fierce dragon turning into a rose, the starlight birds. You saw the crowd of students, their faces full of hope, and then your turn. Entering the cart, the countless boxers, the wands that tried to choose you, and then your wand, rising from the shadows, the gentle pulsation, the flow of powerful energy through your body, the trail of light following your wand, the unique payment you offered, the captured moment of joy, Elorion's soft, wise words, and the true potential of your wand. You smelled the thick mix of flowers and spices, and something ethereal. You saw Morwen, the witch with tangled hair and a friendly smile, her stained hands, her wise green eyes, her quiet humor. You remembered the small, shrinking cauldron, its convenience, its promise to expand at the school, the payment you offered her, the wisp of twilight calm, and the whisper of ancient leaves, her gift of healing herbs, the bundle of sun petal and moon whisper, her whispered prophecy about future need, her words about true healing. You saw the elf selecting moon petal dew, the gnome arguing over dragon's breath, the cloaked figure buying truth serum, the humming energy of the potion shop, sweeping the street, playing tricks on children. You remembered his easy manner, the magnificent brooms he offered, and then your broom, tucked away in a dusty corner, its unassuming appearance, its warm, plain wood, its sturdy bristles, the quiet certainty that it was yours, the subtle vibration, the playful pulsation when you held it, the unique payment you offered Fenris, the shimmering cloud of distant thunder, the hopeful anticipation of rain, his awe, his informal lesson on broom care, his stories of loyal brooms. From the choices you made, from the connections you forged, it was a feeling of growing strength, a quiet knowing you were truly becoming a part of this world. You were an aspiring wizard, or a witch. Your adventure had begun. It was a perfect blanket of starlight. The air was cool, but you felt warm, wrapped in the peace of the meadow, wrapped in the glow of the stars. Who knows? Maybe you would discover the school of magic for aspiring magicians in your sleep. It felt possible. It felt right. Soon you would be able to explore it, to learn its secrets, to deepen your magic. But there was still time for that. For now, there was rest, deep rest, a peaceful, restorative sleep. Perhaps for your most restful sleep, your own bed might be a better choice, a familiar comfort. After all this new magic, you reached into the golden bag. Your fingers found the fine, shimmering dust. You pinched a small amount. You held it. You imagined your bed, the soft blanket, the familiar pillow, the quiet of your own room, the feeling of absolute safety. It dissolved into the air. A very gentle current of energy surrounded you again, even softer this time, more like a whisper, less like a push. You felt the ground beneath you gently shift. The cool air of the meadow gave way to something warmer, something more enclosed. The scent of flowers faded. The distant hum of the market was gone. You were back in your bed. The soft blanket was around you. The pillow cradled your head. The air was familiar. It was night here too, just as it had been in the meadow. But perhaps you would like to change the weather again, just for your sleep, to make it even more peaceful, more comforting. You could do that now. You had your wand. You had your magic. A very soft rain, not a storm, just a steady, quiet tapping. A soothing sound that would accompany you throughout your night. A sound that would lull you into deep, restful sleep. You held your wand. Its pulsation was gentle. You focused your intention. You thought of the sound, the gentle drumming on the window pane, the soft, rhythmic flow. You let the sound wash over you like a soft wave. It filled your room. It filled your mind. It was a comforting rhythm, a steady beat. You felt your muscles relax even more deeply now. Your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders, your arms, your legs. Every part of you became softer and softer. Your mind grew quiet, very quiet. All thoughts melted away. All worries dissolved. The sound of the rain was steady. It was calming. It lulled you into a deep sleep, a very deep sleep. It would be a sleep filled with dreams, dreams of magical adventures, dreams of the mysterious market, the white raven, Elarayan, Morwen, Fenris, your wand, your cauldron, your broom, all your new magical friends, dreams of enchanted journeys, of flying through starry skies, of brewing potent potions, of discovering ancient secrets. You smiled to yourself, a peaceful smile, knowing that the enchantment, the magic dust, and the serenity of the meadow would always be there, within you, ready to bring you peace and relaxation whenever you needed it. Now you returned to your deepest rest. You imagined yourself having a wonderful time, floating gently, drifting into a deep sleep. Your body felt so soft. Your muscles were completely relaxed. You listened to your breath for a while longer, the soft sound of your own breathing, rising, falling, in rhythm with the gentle rain. You felt the security of this place, your bed, your room, your safe space. You felt the peace within you, a deep, quiet peace. It began to sink deeper and deeper, carrying you far away into the realm of dreams, into a world of pure magic, where you were an aspiring wizard or a witch, and anything was possible. You drifted deeper and deeper into the soft, warm embrace of sleep.